Longil tutal mergaloring setial radio, material lo mesengira television ma Facebook, Thanksgiving Day, ma Family Day. Margo directora museum amlo sabel mo gesta gida Ngirchoureng almay mang mo sabel ko krongsi igora mo wal mutalo gisi sa spirit gida other bela ngaramong ma en sebedel kukora umoidasen ngi mo so ispragal holiday ma kul ngi terapia ampol gora smoditial pro TALKSHOW gidrela mangal kester gid.
Okay. Malamil tuta Mr. TELLAMES. Mil tutal mura kami mil tune in and happy Wednesday. Kita malangal tanga tara Ngirchoureng Jim G aka Ngirchoureng is back. Mang teella algukura morong si sel klimaria dengan ni no motmok legal litakla ada BELAU o si sil timing zolo ay sing morning sel concert ni nakapasingay 6 o'clock sa National Museum Amphitheater makadawin ang sila lumilayang at nakakita rubag ingi mo sa BL guk mo o itak legal baby lal gutmok le odaktakal mortege del bukarngil ngal jima umadangil wasing giltmok legal roguil maldim lengi maudasuel maurelel maududel odolok legal bukal mera museum donation ngil mertiang agi igora olngit ter adal mera kapsingin concert mang tendala kwa kaya donation wa mokut maklitel bayar gidring la mongil la adwel سأقول مكلي أوشيسيل تاي مغني جاكيد البوق مقام مثلاً سمي المال ديرا ما كلو توتل البارتر ريكسيل كده أدرى بيلاو الدقورة ديو مي أويتينين وسيجال اللي تكلا الأوبا اللي تقول أميل الأوبا مال مقلول توتل مال سواق الموتل تقل إمو هو وقتي المساجيم من مودي تلويل المدرسة اللي قال التقليد على BELAU إن راسل ولا لو الدسويل مريكي على BELAU ما الباشنري ممسولة مالتو تاو يا جيم
تاو. I'm very happy to be here today to talk about my book and the work that we've been doing for the last 6 years, I think it's been now that we've been working on this. I guess about a month ago, we finally printed this book, the Adidil Rakli BELAU, and it's a collection of songs composed by BELAU from the period of 1915 through 1970. And I kind of picked that period because the story goes back to how I started to understand the music here. In my search for what the meaning of some of this Palauan music was, I stumbled across boxes of tapes at the museum, the reel-to-reel tapes that were from the BELAU radio station, recorded in the 1960s. A wonderful way to capture the moment of the 1950s and 1960s. And in those boxes were about 170, 190 tapes of music, of songs that were composed by Palauans in this period from about 1915 through about 1970. And those songs really tell the story of at least one aspect of what it meant to be a Palauan, and maybe what it means to be a Palauan is to have a broken heart. I don't know.
Of the spirit of a Palauan, yeah.
So I put this book together primarily as a utahong, a songbook. And I meant it to be used for singing and for playing and for understanding the music. So the core part of this book is as a songbook. So I have the lyric in there, in the choir BELAU. I have my best guess at the translation, sometimes not so good, sometimes okay. And then I also transcribed the notes, the melody, the who of the songs. And mostly I did that initially so that my friend Tony could play mandolin along with me. But also I did it to understand what was going on in the music. And we can talk about this a little later, but there are some, as a musician, there are some unique things in Palauan music that always confused me until I started writing them out and started understanding, oh, this is what they're doing. I always thought they were making mistakes, but they didn't. They weren't making mistakes. This is what they intended. So that's the core part of the book. The front of the book is a history of this music. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that if we have a little time today, about how this music from this period of 1915 to 1970, mostly what we call Derbe Asil, but beyond just love songs, there was a profound change in about 1915 that happened in the music of Palau. We went from the asols, marabati, madalang, etc., the chants, and we went into this new Derbe Asil that had a melody that was mostly borrowed from the outside, but I'm convinced that, especially as we get into the 1950s, these are melodies that were developed by the composers, especially Imase. I'm convinced that Imase actually composed the melodies of many of the songs. He was certainly capable of it. So that's the front of the book. And what I like to say is that the history of this music is the history of the people who perform the music, and how these, especially the string band instruments, the mandolin and the guitar, and a little bit of the fiddle or the violin, how did they come to Palau? How did the young Palauan people start to learn those instruments? And especially in the 1950s and 1960s, how they adopted this very unique style of string band music that has a very, very interesting sound. To an outsider, that is a very interesting sound. It's something that people in the United States, people in my community, they listen to that and they say, that's interesting music. They can't understand the words, but they listen to the music that they're playing and they find that appealing. So, you know, when we think of Hawaii, we think of the ukulele and the kind of the Hawaiian music and stuff like that. And BELAU, you have the same kind of treasure, unique treasure that should be continued, I think. So the history of how did these songs develop? What were the influences? What were where did the people learn how to play these instruments? That's the story of this music. And then finally, because I'm an engineer by training, I have to do analysis of things. And so I wanted to answer the question for myself and for others, what is Palauan music? And how does it compare to other music? What are we singing about in these songs? Because, you know, for most foreigners who are in Palau, they hear the Palauan music and it just goes in one ear and out the other, right? They don't really, and the same for me. Until I really started digging into this, I knew a few songs, I knew the words to a few songs, but until I really started kind of digging into the music, I started seeing just some wonderful stories of heartbreak, some stories of tragedy, stories of village pride, stories of praise, all sorts of things that people were talking about. And what I was curious about was, how does that compare to other music.
Other
So
music
from Shabal,
I see.
from Japan, from Chuk,
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm.
American country and western.
Mm-hmm.
These were all influences
Yes.
on the early composers of the music.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so that was what I was interested in, and I did an analysis to look at that.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was a long answer to whatever
So-
the question was.
How did it compare? Wow.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the history.
Okay.
The first song that I know of that was the earliest song that I know that was composed, because it had a date in the songbooks, is the song Kodolungrul Araaz. And that was composed in 1915.
Odolan roll.
Kodolungrul Araaz.
Kadol ngullara.
Janice, could you play this? I want to play, this is a recording that was made in 1936. So in 1936, a team of anthropologists, this is Japanese time, huh? A team of anthropologists came to Palau, and they were documenting all sorts of different cultural things about Palau. But there was one guy whose name was Morinushi, who came with a big, what's called a wax cylinder recording. So back before there were records, there were these cylinders that you would cut and had big, like karmabo
Yeah.
kind of horn on it, you know. And he brought that on the ship and brought it up to the villages, and he recorded about 15 Derbe Asil.
Wow.
And so in 1936, we
1937.
have this snapshot of this is what people were singing. And so this is a recording. The recording is
Wow.
very scratchy, but you can pretty much understand it. So let's hear this. That's a very, very scratchy recording, but you can hear it pretty
The
clearly.
song is still being sung today.
Adan, yeah, yeah.
This was
1950.
recorded in 1936.
Boy.
So it was a group. There was sounds like a male and a female.
Yeah,
voice, huh?
in the notes it said that the, oh, actually, no.
Amlek Ladal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was just people were gathered to record for these foreigners
Oh,
that had
okay.
come in. And so they sang and they danced. And so, like I said, there was maybe 15 Derbe Seal. There were also some old chants that were done as well. in
Where
this
did you
rec-
find this? In Japan?
Yeah, I found it at the University of Oregon.
Really?
These wax cylinders this was sponsored by the Bishop Museum back in the
Okay.
30s. And so
In Hawaii.
in Hawaii. And after this was done, after this trip was done, they shipped these cylinders back to the Bishop Museum, and then the war broke out.
So the Japanese anthropologists were working for the University of Hawaii?
No, it was a joint collaboration.
Japan and wow.
But I think it was funded by Bishop Museum. So these recordings sat in a storeroom in the Bishop Museum for years and years and years. And then in the 1970s, I think, 70s or late 70s, someone got a grant to go in and clean up these old wax cylinders and restore them. And then they came out with a book called The Call of the Morning Bird.
Oh, yeah.
And they had these recordings that were with them.
Mm.
And so...
Barbara Smith and...
No. This is...
Before Barbara Smith.
Before Barbara Smith. Well, it was after Barbara Smith, but anyway, I don't think she probably was involved somehow. But I had been looking for this collection and found that it was in the University of Oregon. And my son was going to school there at the time, and so I was able to sneak my way into the library. And they gave me the cassette tape, and I put the cassette tape in and put the headphones on, and I started playing it. And the first thing I hear is BELAU being sung. I went, oh my gosh, I know this song. This is amazing. And so then I had my little recorder with me, and I kind of stuck it in, and I recorded the whole tape so that, anyway, that's where I got those.
Oregon University
University
Library?
of Oregon, yeah, because University of Oregon was where there was an anthropologist. I'm not remembering his name right now, but he wrote some of the early work for Palau in the 40s.
So how many songs did you get from the University of Oregon?
I got like 15 or 20.
15.
15.
Yeah. And so pretty much all of those songs are in this book, and I took the melody from the recording and transcribed it into the notes.
And did we know who composed the song?
So this, in the songbooks, this song is credited to a woman named Emau.
Oh, just Amau.
Emau, and we think it's Emau from Angar.
Oh, okay.
But when I asked Haley about that, Haley said, no, it couldn't have been Emau because she wasn't old enough to, she probably got it from someone else. She may have sung it, but she probably got it from someone else. So we don't really know.
Oh, yeah.
But we do know that it was dedicated to someone named Limay.
Limay.
Lime. This song that just
Yeah,
played.
yeah. So in 1915,
So do you know which island is Lime from? Or?
I don't.
Amau and Lime are names from the north.
Uh-huh.
Amau is Ngirchoureng, Lime is Kaya.
I don't know.
Lime was a beautiful woman.
Yeah? In 1915?
Oh,
You don't know.
If it was 1915, I thought it was like
A different
1937, different.
Different Limay.
So you made the notes on these songs?
Yes.
The 15 songs.
Yes.
So, wow, the wax at the time, the wax cylinder, because they did also some assaults.
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, I have those too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
During that time.
another book.
Okay.
I'll leave that to Birgit.
How long,
I
did
see.
it,
Very
how
good.
long did it take you to find these songs? You followed them up to Pisho Museum in Honolulu, and then to the University of Oregon.
So I have been working on this project probably since about 2015, maybe 2014, 2015. And in about 2016, I retired from my job. I thought I retired anyway. I sort of retired. And because of the community that I belong to in the United States of musicians, both Tony and I are within a community that we call American Old Time Music.
Oh,
And
around your area?
yeah, and we play old American, mostly tunes, fiddle tunes, from kind of all over the United States and Canada, actually, but old things from the, 19th century, early 20th century, we call old time music, and there's lots of different subdivisions of that. But and so we're interested in music from small communities, and also communities that are isolated. Because in isolated communities, so like in the mountains, there'll be communities of people, or in the rural areas, there's communities of people who didn't have a lot of outside interaction, especially before radio. And so the music there evolved into a unique music for each region, each area. And part of one of the things that the people in our community feel is very important is to try to what's the word? Conserve. Conserve that old style, because it brings a unique perspective.
Yeah.
So we listen to music on the radio that's the popular music that's fed to us from Nashville and from New York and Los Angeles, and we get into this homogenized culture that's just everything's kind of the same. But when you look into these smaller communities, isolated communities, you find just some fabulous artistic creation that is happening because people are allowed to just explore. And that's what happened in Palau. What happened in Palau, especially after the war,
Right.
is that people, in my mind, I'm probably wrong about this, but after the war, before the war, lots going on here. There's lots good and lots bad going on here. But a lot of people, very active. Koror was the Amatsu Ngarue, we say.
It's
the big city.
Mini Tokyo or something like that. Yeah.
And then we had the year of isolation of the blockade during the war and misery.
I see.
Or I sing a song about that.
Oh, well.
And then the war's over, and most of the Japanese are sent away. And who's left? Like 6,000 people. Before the war, there was 40,000 people in Palau. And then all of a sudden, it's very quiet. And out comes the mandolins and the guitars. And people fall in love and break their hearts. And it's time to write some songs about our broken hearts.
Especially like after the war, when they returned the south, Angkor and Peleliu, when they returned, they got out from the jungle, from BELAU, going back to, there's that song about Peleliu. It's a Sme Albat or something. It's like Peleliu Sme Albat. It's like a sick coral. It just blank. After the war, when they went back home. So it's things like songs like that about their return.
So, because especially in this period, there was this music that was developing without a lot of outside influence. There weren't tourists coming. There wasn't radio. It developed into this sound where people had learned the musical style. So the guitar style that Aichi played, Ngirchoureng, he played in the Fuku style. It's a finger style that's a Japanese style of playing guitar. And when you listen to him or Kiyoshi, the rhythm that's set up there, for as a musician, I listen to that and I say, wow, that's good. The guitars weren't in tune. And the strings were probably really old, and so the sound isn't so good sometimes, but there was just an amazing level of skill. And then you get into the late 1950s, and Neterio Henry finds, he gets the mandolin, and he practices and practices, and he could play a melody that was just clean and beautiful. But it wasn't just Neterio. It was also up in Kaingo. There was, I'm forgetting the name right now. I'm sorry. The two brothers that were wonderful players, wonderful mandolin player. In Airai, you had Yao Iad, who was a good mandolin player.
Oh.
And the musicians just developed and got together and traded secrets, I think, and that's the history.
You know, I think there was a time when these people from Angkor and Babel Dabe and Airai and Koror got together and they formed their own band and their own groups, and they start to compose songs and they play around the islands. And that's when the songs became very popular.
But the skills of these guys, they just like, especially like Neterio, Nguaman Dorin man just perfect it on his own. He didn't learn from some professional teachers or something.
Just listen.
Yeah.
And there were composers. There were known composers from Ngaralong, from Ngaramlongwe, from Ngatpang, from Airai. The songs they composed became very popular and they were shared. Do you have those songs?
I do. And I also have, in the back of the book, I've tried to put as much of the story of each of those composers that I know. And there's still much I don't know. There's still very, very much I don't know that I would love to know for edition 2 of this book.
How many songs? How many songs are in this book?
There are 151 songs in this book.
With the notes?
With the notes. And I have another maybe 30 songs from this period that I've done a lot of work on, but they're not finished enough to put in the book, and so I need to do more work. But
for putting this together, the amal to tell part of history. You know, the history books in the school or this Akla school needs to be updated about Palau. A lot of things need to be. We're moving so fast. Palau is moving so fast that people like you who took an interest in our music and compiled, we're very grateful. They will be gone and we don't have anything like this.
I know a Palauan lady who have a songbook about this day. They're all written lyrics on it, but there's no notes. So nobody really can.
Just words.
So I have, over the years, I've collected maybe 10 or 15 songbooks from different people. And what I do in here is I went through all of the different songbooks, and I make a note of where the where the words are different from each other, and where the singers maybe change things a little bit, because again, we don't know what Shiro Budul originally said. What were the original words that he was thinking of? Right?
I see.
And because I've asked people from the family to say, did they have any like papers that they left behind? And yeah.
You know, there was this guy from Airai. His name is Yonat.
Yonat Malwa?
Malwa. He composed songs, and was singing some of his songs.
Mga sangareng.
They never get all these songs.
Yeah. But I do want to say, I thank you for your thanks, but I do want to say that I could not have done this. I could not have done this without the help of many, many people in Palau. People who took the time to sit down with me to tell me their story, tell the story of their family, to patiently help me with my bad Palauan. Things like
Jim, how did you know Palau? And how did you come to love this kind of work? And
Ngaring tetol basi. Dama malas melukol tokol belau. Aji ma understand na tokol belau. Mang SBL in English hindi malbito ka maklol adalo rin sa show eh. Yung masorya dolo ko tokol belau. Wala understand that. Especially ka mga kasado yung mga dolo ko tokol belau matching.
kami guger kau.
Okay.
Kamil gara mer belau, emo mga tangali belau. Emo soa may gal, malusay gal litakar belau.
So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to answer in English.
I see.
Koramiti tour. I came to Palau in 1980 as a Peace Corps volunteer. Adrabaib, a water systems engineer. And I worked at Public Works. And I was a Peace Corps until 1982. And then I lived in Yap for a year. And then I came back to Palau and left in middle of 1984. And so I learned a little bit of the Palauan language then. And when I first came to Palau, I remember one of the first nights we were here, I went to the Palauan Club.
Oh.
And we sat there and I listened to the music. It was probably, who knows who was playing at that time, maybe Sikitong or maybe Brisha singing or somebody like that. And this is in what I call the Palauan Electric Band days. We had we didn't have the organ yet. We had the electric guitar and the bass, drums.
A full band.
Full band, yeah.
Wow.
And when I first came, I listened to that and I thought, oh my God, I have to listen to this for the next 2 years. This is going to be terrible. And then, as time went on, I started learning a few songs and
you were then playing guitar?
I played
musician yourself?
guitar and mandolin.
Okay.
And so, every night every weekend night we'd go to the Baramatal. Pearl Lounge, Telulu Club, and Cha Cha, and Akira Nasekas, Nerbeth.
Kul bangela adar belau malu belau. Tal adar belau bulam kila.
Lucio, Comeg, Lucio Ngiraiwet.
Kul bangela Lucio Ngiraiwet.
And
mo accept they're good to dance too.
Well,
after a while.
So I was a young man. I was and as a young, the songs of our youth are the songs that we carry with us through the rest of our life, right? Probably starting at about, the age 12 or 13. We hear songs all the way into our 20s. It's when we're first experiencing love, we're first experiencing all of these things, and the songs that go with it are like the soundtrack to a movie. And as we get older, as we all are getting older, we hear these songs from those earlier days. And we remember the emotions that come with us. So for me, the sound of the Baramatal was the sound of me kind of as a young man. Começa mal cloboco redil.
Yes, Jim. Egal litak ngati albugar ka. Agora di litak clear adum la tamala tandi.
Atalmala angra. Angra.
Tamla broken heart.
Broken Heart. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Kung miltamal larong belau siyang gotelmente. Naraul mang mansumay.
No, I'm not going to answer that question.
Kakukman na mo. So, altaboro.
This is more academic.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Hindi ako sabel academic legal alitakla. Ay kako tulungil alitakla.
Malong.
Oh.
Sa akmulo kasi, more than 50% na alitak na natin ang adi isa preng broken heart. Ay
So-
alitak na belaw.
So like I said, I'm an engineer.
I see.
I do statistics and all that.
O nga, engineer.
So 85%
85%.
of the songs in this book kilala Broken Heart.
Bato ka okay, may malbasan tira. Ay alitak lang natin babir gilt maklia Ngirchoureng. Adi alitak kila isa preng ang raklen. Broken heart ang isa preng.
Oo.
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 Talaman na dalawin.
Yung mga mo.
Ay gamal miring laurelel legang am lamlu sa note ni. Hindi ako note sa rogoy man sabi adan memor ko eh.
Minsan akmulo kasi sel the kura mo broken heart taman lang ud ingyamal kato ka man mongil maliba alitak ka mo mongil the creative juice comes out ka mo mongil malu sa alitak.
Well, that's an interesting question. And so 85% of these songs are about love. And most of those songs, probably 95% of those songs are about broken hearts. There's only 2 or 3 songs in this whole book that are about good love. About love that doesn't end up with somebody going away
Happily ever after
and
love.
somebody mangkakabalung.
So
But what's interesting about that, so you think, what's the matter with Palauans? They're all broken-hearted people.
Oh, I see.
But the influences on this music came from Adra Siabal, Ma Adra Ruk, Ma Adra Merigel.
Amarigel.
And I don't know about the Adra Ruk, but if you look at the Inca music,
Yeah.
the Adra Siabal, Elitakra
Why
Siabal,
say mal makitar mo dai.
Inca music, 85%
Oh.
are about broken heart. If you look at American country and Western music,
Yeah, man marang.
85% are about broken hearts.
Oh.
And so then the question that I've been thinking about lately is, why do people sing about their broken heart?
I see.
my game dilo. Start at 12 to 13 years old. Egamer belam lam gorak lola. A broken heart. Magam no siga kagidal litak. Why say ya?
Why say? You know, so other BELAU, ma other Siabal, ma other Merigel, the OCCU, 85%. And just singing about love. And if you look back at the history of all people, back to the Bible.
Adam and Eve, boy.
Well, no, a little bit past Adam and Eve. I don't know if Eve, maybe Adam sang a song about Eve, but I don't know. He didn't like the fig leaf or something like that. No, but the songs of Solomon in the Bible,
Oh, I see.
many of those are love songs.
Man marang.
And those are, how old are those? Those are from, BC, I say, long, long time ago. Throughout the history of people, people have always sung about love and mostly about broken hearts. And so the question that I've been asking myself lately is, why in Palau would someone want to tell the rest of Palau that they have a broken heart?
Oh, I see.
So for myself, I have written love songs in my life about my life, but I don't share those with other people.
Oh.
I share them with certain people, but not
Okay.
not everybody.
Ale. So, mulo ko yun, kasi, o ay sa kita, ansim lo si, ngara mong kumal di nga, di belaw, amal, at amal, mulo sa litaklir, gila, amiri ng artir, matal mala dalwil, usil mo, litakli, o ay singi, itakli, at amam sangli.
Hindi ako low ay saraat.
Tooy,
Hindi
itakli.
rulia litak.
Tumitakli.
Hindi ako low eyes.
Of course,
Tamali magasay, tadiway ka. Tadiway sa mali magasay lahat.
Hindi tiyam, litakli nga beklas.
Oo.
Hindi,
Lasing
asi madya
ang
ka siya,
magtagin.
litakli. Kadya kam siya, litakli.
So we just listened to this song from 1915, but recorded in 1936, where the man says, "You have deceived me." What I say? Akuling el mo kadoling rula raad, hindi mlaka kultaka ranguk ergao. Why is he saying that? Why is he saying, you've been the resting place for the entire village? You know, why did I think that I was going to be any different? And
Kultakaran mo karakaw.
oh,
It doesn't mean why.
well,
Why
I
am I
deceived myself about you. Why say? Or hindi.
So, sige selva, sige mo o maybe ko mo umtabangi, amal other bela wa amal mal close to tell renga raat. Agil relationship rata mata mal close to tell. We treasure that. Megal takla amal ol. Sel matamal la wala ada katamal di. La katamal moral wa say tell renga clock la rubak. You know, clock la rubak kal diosel. Di kal gaya del tombali. Masawi.
Di ako sabi masubdi, magarulia ali takle maliwe. Say akli belaw.
I see. Ada mga ibebelaw.
Mga belaw, manggeto maliarungum, edi akam spedi mergo mette, rulia ali takle, emo mga maliwek. Maliwek. Why say? Kala dire kal why say mga maliwek. Ako mga timlaw.
Maybe.
Ngani ako ra ali takle sa lo reng sengi. Kurang ngil do reng sengi nasi.
Dara ko ra.
Yeah.
Dia.
Oh, oh, you want me to sing one, huh?
Undi ka ko
Dia
sa.
ka arung kung ngani
Yeah. So this I find interesting, and when I've asked this question to several people, ako kera other belau maliba elita,
Alita.
and they say that sometimes it's to send a message. Sometimes, you know, someone might have something ends poorly, I say, not like you expect it to. One person says, "Aringuk kadelomilami el morakodal," but it didn't happen that way, and so they want to send a message to say you've hurt me. And so they go to Imise and they say, "Imise, and this is what I wanted to say." And then he would send that message. And it's very subtle, but the person, there's a line in one of these songs that says, "Ndiaka the madangali, ndikawa madange." What I say?
Malmarang.
So when the person listening to the song, even though there's no names given in the song, but when they hear it,
Ayun na.
Mayor Louise.
Marang. Yaman.
Tamala darani taklo.
So sometimes it's to just say, you hurt me, but kita ada belu, adra belu, so we're gonna just keep going. Sometimes I've been told it's to send a message to the rest of the belu, to say, it wasn't my fault.
Oh.
It was hers. Nania ad elobes nyakakubes. What is it?
Waisi.
Marang.
Tilan dakal sal miringal takoy.
Well, the other thing that I think is important to know about these songs is, while 85% of these songs are about broken hearts,
Mm-hmm.
there's 15% of these songs that are about other things
Yeah.
that are a window into the life of the people of that time. So I mentioned before Olabu Lera Ereoma.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a song that was composed in 1944.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a bit of a love song, maybe. It's about a broken heart, but it's maybe broken heart caused by the hardships of war, and the fact that people died in the war, people were separated.
Separate. Limlakal bol. Limlakate limot.
Mhm. And I've found maybe 4 or 5 songs from that period that talk about the Hima Bay and hiding out and just the hardships of what it was like. And those I think are very important. Like in that song Alabul Vera Eriomo, it says Kubespe song e kuk di lotkang. We forget about these things. I forget. I'm beginning to forget. But they should be remembered.
Yeah, I see. And also songs, I talk about how patriotic we are. Songs about your island, the name places of your village. That's a happy song.
Yes. Yes.
Sige na, malira ka malungin.
Yes.
Itak lang.
Yes. That there's a whole theme. There's many songs that that are village pride songs, and I call many of them travelogues.
Oh yeah, yes.
Because they talk about all of the wonderful places that are in our village.
And the name of the
and the
places,
names of
yeah.
all the places, and that's just a wonderful.
Do you have any songs like that, like from Japan, from this US, from country in Western, or that's
So there is
similar?
I can't speak to Japan, but in American country music, there's a theme. There's many themes in American country music. So there's love, broken heart. That's an easy one. Cheating songs, But there's also songs about work, about the pride that you take in the work that you do. So like there's a lot of truck driving songs. I'm a truck driver and I'm driving down the road. And I'm a farmer and I'm proud of the work that I do. And what surprised me is that I don't find that in Palauan songs. There's no songs, at least before 1970, there's a few after, that talk about fishing. Or, I say? Except like the PCAA, but then you told me that it actually has a different meaning. that when they find the bukitang, that it isn't just the bukitang that they're finding.
Di nga niya, kelbebira litak le chimel. Medibera kladao.
Yeah.
Mo niya kladao le
Oo.
magwet.
Yeah.
Duiba litak le.
The songs of praise from one village to the next. And those are very important. I think those are very important. And there's nothing like that in America that I know of. I was saying about pride of place. There's very definitely country songs that talk about the pride of your home. Your
Like
home.
the Oki from Muskogee.
No, not that. That's not what that song's about. But like the John Denver song "Country Road, Take Me Home to the Place Where I Belong."
I see. Yeah.
Right. That's all about my home. I miss my home. Very much like Vietnam Tayori.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see.
So that's Vietnam Tayori is another song that is very much a travel log. And you know the story there is that Loyang came home on leave, and
After Vietnam.
I think he was still
Yeah,
he was just on leave, and
Yeah.
he came home and asked Kapakol to write him this song. And so Kapakol wrote this.
Man, that's
Wonderful song.
Say kita mo otilo say ngam lang ya other belam la Vietnam War. So we
Kasi
heard from him.
tatngalela mangitak.
Tatangan? Or was it Augustina?
Yeah, Agustin.
Augustina.
Augustina Mo.
Augustina mo.
I see.
Ngalga
Kamla.
yun. Ngalga
Oo, eh.
yun.
Aka ululir lang el bela mo kuman matangi kalitak la. Gusto TELLAMES.
So those and
Dim la kude kung gangat tel mla tumalar ngule merera garis.
Arungu just fine.
Ere jim endigul
But the songs of the Dao songs, the songs of respect paid from one village to the next, you know, like Imiyun Zadalad is an important song because it pays respect to the four cornerstone, Ngalagala Milath. But also it's an important song because it conveys the history,
I see.
conveys the ancient history forward, much like I would assume that the Asols do. One of the few, there's a few of these more modern songs, the Beisa, the Vitakla, that make reference to much older history of Palau that I think are important to understand.
Tiya dili ka naman lungil gumong mapartra ko subra school because agal litak la south radiak sirgi dar other belau. Buto ka broken heart songs but also smodia of the Margeltang, how we've evolved or changed over time under influence of Sabal, Miguel, So, Marco to tell.
Itsim tiang naringi tiang la tiang petoka kapiringit sebel mga.
Ada. Oh.
Not a museum.
Ngam yun.
Sira uli la siyo yak min ko si mal masaw lazim na. Tiang din langin but makli kampay lang ngayon ko other clean mel donation ngin mel kita other belau ma ayol teraw ngin museum mo dori $5 lang siya museum ma program sa ngin.
Kumadek mong ran. A Ministry of Education am na start la art class. Mangla sabi mo spian ka.
Oh,
Lagi
We'll
we'll have to print more.
Yeah, because the mo spe.
Oh,
Letap to ka ngal participate in art class. E malungi lalwol ngani ate lira. Mesa telo subo ngi. Abol sorry de to mesra to mesra pia.
okay. Oh, Miss Rapia.
The Mera Museum.
Oh.
Ngani say malungin. Aji maulam da sa ako. Some donate at my school. If they have a music club,
But not for everybody.
no, just one.
Yeah, we did a small printing for this, and then we'll see if it sells out. Then maybe I'll fix the mistakes, and then we'll make another printing. Because I found a few.
Na malungil na-start art class ra Ministry of Education, masasabel develop interest ra arangal.
And one of the things, so I am here until what are we on? December 10th. Thank you. And I would like to be playing every day with people and enjoying this music. So if anybody is interested, just give Pia a call. Give me a call. I'll be happy to come over and we'll play and have good. Matamata renguz.
Poeme mong itakla baby raklu ang holiday, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Ngani ongil time. Kadarin sa ongil time may raklu or Friday. Skumandi ongil. Mga gitar ka eh.
Oh, kluguk.
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 Kalagad mo mga dadura.
Oh,
Chinese ang holiday.
Oh, but the other thing that I wanted to ask people is, like I said before, I'm there's still much I don't know. And I have been working over the last year. How long has it been, Pia? A year and a half, maybe? I've been having meetings by Zoom because of COVID with mga Cebu, Ngirchoureng, ma Felix Okabe, ma Ngirchoureng, ma Pia, and ma Deborah Torbyong. And we've been going over all of these songs and listening to them and looking at the words and talking about them and trying to recall the stories and asking questions. And all of that work is reflected in this book right now. But even with all of these wonderful people, there's much we still don't know. So for example, one of my favorite composers of these songs, and this is a person who was composing music in the 1930s through the 1940s, was a person named Skilang Mitsungi. Palauan Mitsungi Skilang. And I've not been able to get a clear answer to who this person was. Was this person Adra Melikiok, which some people have told me? And it's not the Skilang from Imalik. That's
Skilang. Skilang Lekira. Namalal.
From 1938.
Skilang daw? Mitsungi?
Oh,
Nariatara rubaka Skilang lalong milibali taklo.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I thought that he lived in the 60s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah. Maybe in the 60s, ang lam lekira nga malal. Skilang. Ngokay kang gepe tawalo sigil ngin. Agire the mogel kirgel.
But I find this person's music to be
Milo sa litaklo. Which were some of his famous songs.
I'll tell you. Yeah, so like Melaot Ramado. So that one right there, Melaot Ramado. Kalakol tera mo malong en kora. Can't remember what the next word is. But just that beginning of that song, it sets the stage.
Yes, man.
Melaot Ramado. You're expecting, is it my lover? Or is it the wind knocking a branch against the house? And all of Skilang's songs are like that, where they're just very nicely composed, very poetic.
Wow.
This music is the poetry
Yeah.
of that generation of Palau.
Malmarang.
Ma-
It's not here anymore. It's like bygone. Kada ko om de maringin, numeros ringin narmidel.
Hindi mo ngilangat yan.
Eksirigi.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ngartiang and Ngartiang.
Martia endi nganya other director proposes say galal si Ederulia CD of all of this or tape or something sa Edel
So,
or nang sa litak.
So let me just point out again that the recordings, all of the source recordings for all of these songs, so the BELAU recordings, and then for some of the other ones that weren't in the BELAU set, the earliest recording I could find, they are on my website. And I have the address right on the first page of the book.
Oh, so you have the songs, huh?
And you can listen to those, or you can at the top of the page you can just let it play, and it just kind of plays it like it's going to take over your radio station. But don't worry.
Sound tegi dia.
Oh,
Kada.
right?
Kali ma website na kawe. Kami loreng sa man sel mo orar telbo ge so min mangitak o mo kumoreng sa ay litak mlaman usa tel babier. Ngani na sel tel babiera sel website na Jim. Sel emdi Google ni kadi mo sel website ngani ya. Ay litak mo koreng sa ni. En mangitak na bangila.
Oh,
Sing along.
Yes, and for each song I have a little clipping from the book of Atakoy, Atakingela Elitaku. So you can just put your mouse over that and then listen to and sing along. Karaoke.
Oh, wow. Next, maybe within maybe the next 2-3 years. Ay mo niya, karaoke, madrulia karaoke bar, kukmal di, kadi may mga itak ang artiyang.
Oy, Michelle, local mega the mega arrangement. Ika mega mayo each mga Cebu ma debi. Kadumara mongero komada do ika video kami. Komada do.
Oh.
Tegero ko Felix, kami mlada do girela ika.
Kadumara suba to kadoban tiritirang mo do with mga Cebu galbel ko itak mga rak. Ma suba to ko lang gilasi mga Cebu ma Felix.
At kung gaya rela mo nga do tire merut yan.
The review. The message litakle. El prazimra.
I say, Ndiak, that's not the translation. You don't understand. Yeah. Right at the top of the book, I say, Akmasub el mometitur.
Kamasub el mometitur.
It is very much my pleasure.
So, Sir, retired at 2016 from your professional job. Then, kung sa community, kung start
well, so as I was saying, it's important in my community to try to preserve Ngirchoureng music of this sort. And so as I started thinking about what do I want to do with the rest of my life,
that's so.
I thought, well, here's a community that I'd like to know more about this music. I'd like to understand what was going on. And so I contacted you, and you were gracious enough to say, yes, please come into the museum. And there was so much I didn't know. When I was, in 1980, when I was here, we had the full band, electric band days. And I saw Ngirchoureng play at Weiss.
Weiss, Weiss.
Used to be Weiss before Burger Hut and then Rock Island Cafe.
I remember calling, Alita Weiss.
And, but I didn't know anything about the old music. And I probably heard it on BELAU when I was listening, but a lot, like I said, in one ear, out the other. And so I thought, well, I'll go to Palau and I'll see what I can find out, and I'll talk to different people. And so I sat down with several people that I knew of. I sat down with Haley, and I sat down with Edward, and I don't remember who else, but the questions that, and Johnny B. I sat down with him and talked. And so this is how much I didn't know. He'd say, oh, that was the Paradise Club. And I said, oh, there was a bar named the Paradise Club? No. And so it's kind of like the fog lifted off of my eyes. I started learning more and more. And then we found the tapes, and then I spent the next year just restoring all of those recordings and restoring the El Dadu. And
So
Captain
you're
Wilson.
being a Peace Corps here was a very much added. It was a big plus for you and the community that you were in.
It was a big plus for me. That was for sure. I'm not sure how much for the community, but so far I hope I've given back.
Well, yes.
That has been, I say, like I say, I was in my early 20s, and it was a very formative part of my life. And when I returned to the States and kind of settled down, got married, had a career, very often I brought back with me some tapes from the Baramatal, and I would put on those tapes and listen to the old sounds, and it would, and the word that comes, the phrase that comes to mind is "Amalilut Taringuk." My heart would just return back to that time, back to Palau. And it was kind of it was always sort of this music that meant something to me. But I didn't understand the words. And then later I understood the words, and it was like, wow.
So, when you were a Peace Corps here, you did not really speak Palauan?
I did, but
It's just a...
I still don't really speak
Kami na
Palauan.
engineer, you did a lot of figures and talked with a lot of... not really using Palauan every day like the teachers.
Ako say, ako si ka Amars. Nani Amars al Baib?
Ngam loklo la other way lang.
I say.
Siya mera bela malge karel bui. Siya loral mula moklo la.
So this
so much.
process, this has been a real process over the last 6 years, and so once I had the tapes, then I started transcribing the lyrics from the songbooks that I had. I started writing down the lyrics and then translating them. And one thing I would like to say is that I could not have done this without the work of all of the people who are involved in Takangeth.com.
Oh, yeah.
And for those who don't know about Takangeth, it is a fantastic resource for the Tokoya Belau. It's an online dictionary that, and I'll have to say that this process has added a lot to that dictionary as well, because as I would find words that weren't in the dictionary, I'm part of that group, and we would email each other and say, what does this word mean? Is this the right variation of the word? Things like that. And so as I went through that process, I started understanding the songs more, started appreciating them, and then my friend Tony, we have played music together for probably 40 years, ever since I came back from Palau almost, and of different styles. And we were talking about this music, and he said, "Well, I'll help. I'll come." And he's been great. He doesn't speak any Palauan except for Ali.
Ali.
And but he's learned he reads the notes and he plays the melody on the mandolin, and
Caller.
he's
We have a caller.
He's good.
oh.
Ali caller ngara air.
Li, Bador, aku mesra TV kami kora mal interested and kora sakal jo maklat kerja mau kau ingin aruba. Aku mesra TV kami kora mal interested and kora sakal jo maklat kerja mau kau ingin aruba. Nari arui kere elan mengitak lah. Ega kita litak rai al malungi la mining ringi. Teman-teman lawor ra al selai gal litak lah. Mingitak la sel bologo ta sendi ka morre dala makmail ang alurular ada lit clear to ko ngara sela litak ngini lo tirak la ndi dia kal sorir ma ko olgit lo sen sebi lu kala masmo kala ngal gal mingitak la sei mingitak ngara tele tele la mo man la klok le ratara sula
So she was saying that young people, some young men who are singing these old songs are changing the meaning of the words.
Ada.
So we're telling them you should not change the meaning of the words or use, and you say, oh, you know, it's not yours to. So
Marawa say.
he wants us to remind these kids that
Marawa
they're
say.
owned by.
And that, as I said, we've been meeting to make sure that the words that are in this book are the words, at least as best we know, were meant by Tigel Az al Malibirgi.
That's
Emoblol, giril blol kadang mesar at. Igang creation sa igang alulib ar adal mlani ang ulmatimilib matokem giril kulli sa gidil lula suela adal milibitar alitakle bayo der sin mergidam kadang speringi orang sagi ma sa gidil artigal giril adal giril respecter say
yung namun niya copyright law.
I say.
Hindi, adal adiga ko resistir ay kan. Elite clearan. Hindi ngungila kam la arulia tialbuk. Mal tatay gidil buk au ul maraba mo tilgidil. Nobdase mo respect of religion bepira.
Oh. So for each song, what I have listed is, to the best of my knowledge, who was the composer. And when I find multiple sources say different things, then I'll make a note of it to say it could be this person, it could be this person. And in only in cases where people are very confident that it wasn't the other person, that some songbooks were wrong, will I remove the name, but I usually keep it in the footnote to say, this songbook says that it was composed by so-and-so. But I talk about this in the book. What's interesting about when someone, when we finish a song, very often, especially in a jam, we're up at the museum, we're playing music, everybody's, stop the song, como marula.
Aus my boo.
And then we'll talk about the song, and someone will say, "Tial elitiklelatan." And there's lots of answers to that question. So the first answer is the person who actually wrote the words, who actually composed. So, imise, malibirgi. But very often, imise was given the first draft by someone else. by the person who's sending the song out.
Bueno.
Malubet na dim la explain ang imergo niya di.
Hmm.
Mga dado ngi. Ako rin alitak. Lolip ay say. Ada mo mga dado ngi. Mga raswal ng radi lubet swal. In release kita dito.
So those are two possible people who could be listed as, you know, Temaliverengi, or who does the song belong to? Sometimes the song belongs to the person who it was sent to. Why say?
I see.
Yeah, because they're the ones that Ula Rectella.
Kauspe author BELAU man namadagduspe. Ular telangot. Kauspe ngilungin.
Agra.
Teltoy. Ular telangot.
Yakudige.
Oh. He just said it.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something
Oh,
else.
I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, those are all possible answers to the question of who composed, or whose song is it? Who does it belong to? And I have to say that none of them are wrong, right? They're all the right answer to that question. And so when we talk about copyright, it gets very complicated.
Why say?
Why say?
I see. Why say? Meringel. Meringel adorula copyright raigan. Irurang
Maybe all. They all hold the copyright.
Biakamram sulang yachim.
So, ako lang, ako Amerika Sjorgit, sa wrap up di umaklat ka na natin, concert na Jim nakapasingay, National Museum, 6 to 10. Sumakuha rin kasi, eso, magiging murang sa litak ng artiyang Sam, maybe na litak le. Jim Matoni mo sa kura kapasingay na National Museum, o naman, mga matawa na kami, may orang si kukura, really mas stress before the holidays. Thank you.
Kamam sula pia, kurenga sule me pia ko machim lo sabe man me ma. Rather vela kuk mo, rang likta gidel songbook plan. Relia chim me, la musbe rather vela. Merenge pungania over 150 songs. Ngani anutsuni. Labe le bola museum. Man merenga sule. Kurenga sule la sule lo set program. Rela sils malungil Thanksgiving, ma family den merenge.